Hey there, I'm Jefferson Ferrara from Builder Innovator. We're here at CertainTeed Saint-Gobain talking about One Precision Assemblies and the broader topic of offsite building components and what builders can be using today to realize all sorts of benefits that the industry has for a long time promised, and talking about the technologies that are available to builders today and what it would look like for them to get started. And we realize that offsite built components may not be a term that's used broadly from coast to coast. So a little upfront definitions when we're talking about prefabricated components, modular building, or offsite practices in general, that all falls under the umbrella term of offsite factory built components. I'm here with Dennis Michaud of One Precision Assemblies. So, Dennis, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know that you're an MIT grad and a former home builder yourself, and then tell us a little bit about OPA and some of the rich history there.
Yeah, so really you covered most of my background anyway. Yeah, I was, I am trained as an architect. I did instead gravitated much more toward the building side of the industry as a home builder, and then I really got into finding ways to solve the challenges that I saw when I was building houses out in the field. And of course, those challenges are, they're numerous.
Mhm.
And when I saw the opportunity to work with CertainTeed Saint-Gobain to kind of really scale some of the solutions that I felt were necessary for the building industry, I jumped on it.
I know CertainTeed's a very well-known brand, and across the world, people know Saint Gobain. But give us a little bit of background there on the family tree there.
Sure. So Saint-Gobain or Saint-Gobain is the parent company. It's a global company, been around for 360 years. Uh, and really, since its inception, it was all about innovation in the building industry. We are in other industries, automotive, aerospace, energy, etc. And what's great about that is we're able to learn from the ways that other industries have solved similar challenges. And the one that I always like to bring up is leaks, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, every builder, I certainly was, is petrified of getting a call from a homeowner saying my house is leaking. Car companies don't get those calls. You know, I don't. When's the last time that you were in a plane and it was leaking, even though it's obviously much worse conditions?
Mhm.
So we can draw from the tried and true solutions of other industries and bring those into home building, which for me is very exciting.
Yeah.
CertainTeed is a brand within Saint-Gobain. CertainTeed is primarily in North America, and it's really all of the building materials that impact the performance of a home or a building. But what we saw is that there's one thing to have all the possible materials that you need. It's another thing to help guide builders towards, what is the right combination of those materials? What's the equation that makes it 1 + 1 = 3 in terms of performance? We're we're not out to sell and put more material inside a building. That's not the solution to achieve higher quality and you know, manage costs. We feel that by having the right combinations of materials that are engineered and developed to work together, that you can actually use less materials but have higher performance with, of course, the efficiency that comes from using less materials. But we started putting out into the market kind of recipes for how to do this, and we saw that still there was some struggle in, okay, how exactly do I install this with this? What is the proper way for me to, flash or caulk or tape that? So what we wanted to do is offer a really an out-of-the-box solution to achieve the efficiency and the performance, the quality benefits that builders want from these right combination materials in a package that is just delivered to the job site, ready to go. I think that, what I'm most interested in is why are so few builders in the United States, why have so few builders adopted offsite construction practices, whether that be modular or panelized or other types of components, is when we look in other parts of the world, and Saint-Gobain as a global company sees this in places like Japan, in Scandinavia, in Germany, UK. We see a much higher percentage of adoption of these methodologies, and they're being very successful. Japan right now is able to build more homes than it has people to house. Why haven't we seen that yet in the United States? And I think the reason is that for a lot of home builders, they've had less than ideal experiences in the past with this type of building. And really, when we think of offsite construction, we think of, maybe better, but certainly faster and maybe cheaper. And what a lot of builders have experienced is that, yes, the part that they're getting from the offsite factory is coming a lot faster, and usually the quality is quite good, um, and usually the price is very competitive. But the challenge happens when those components are brought to the job site. I'm really seeing two challenges when I speak with home builders who have tried this in the past. Um, One is that they really don't know what to do with these offsite components when they arrive on the job site. They're not given a lot of instruction in terms of how to put them together, and they want to build a good quality house, and they're given a Lego kit without the right instructions. The second challenge is that not everything can be done in a factory. All right. Wherever two modules come together, wherever two panels come together, there's work to be done on the job site. And what builders are telling us is that that work is ending up costing them much more than it should as a proportion. And it's actually bringing, it's offsetting the cost savings from offsite construction. The reason being is if you're hiring uh, uh, a framing sub to do 10% of the work, they're not going to bill you for 10% of that of the cost. If you're hiring insulation or drywall sub to do, 5% of the work, you're going to be charged more than 5% of the cost if you can actually get that sub to take on your job in this, scenario where certainly labor supply is a lot lower than the demand for it. So our aim as an organization and with One Precision Assemblies is to really solve those two problems for the builders that choose to use our panelized system.
Sure. So it sounds like the one of the major hiccups that you guys have been seeing is that patching in offsite practices with your traditional stick framing practices, it's sort of a janky system that doesn't realize the benefits that offsite typically promises and that builders were expecting to yield. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I think that that's certainly the conception, when or the perception when we speak with a lot of home builders that are skeptical of offsite practices. Um, So for us, we've aimed to solve it in two different ways with One Precision Assemblies. First, any trade that we take on as part of our scope, whether it's done in the factory or the little bit that needs to be done on the job site, we take that on entirely. So the all of the rough carpentry or the structural aspects, that's entirely on us. All of the insulation, the air sealing, the waterproofing, moisture management, windows, doors, of course, the flashing of those windows and doors, everything is on our plate. So the builder doesn't need to worry about hiring a sub just to do a small percentage of that scope. The second piece is that we're actually installing the panels for the builders. So we're really taking away that challenge of, okay, I got this great kit, really excellent, in our case, panels, really excellent components, but I don't know how to put them together and I've never done this before. Well, we are on the job site doing that installation. It usually takes about a week. Um, and we are ensuring that the quality is right before we leave. We're doing a blower door test at the end as a matter of, every project we're doing the blower door test to be able to confirm both for the builder, who is our customer, as well as for ourselves, that the performance level of the built house or building is exactly what we promised to that home builder.
Sure. So you were talking a little bit about how the quality and a lot of the benefits that OPA or OPA is bringing builders is not from additive materials that are, you know, uh, typically driving up costs when you think about, traditional building, but more from the engineering side of things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So our process, when a builder comes to us, they're bringing their design to us. We don't have, well, we do have some curated designs that we can use as starting points or ways to move a little bit more quickly. But most of the time, a builder is coming to us with their blueprints and saying, can you build this? And almost always the answer to that is yes.
Hmm.
Um, that's one of the advantages of a panelized solution is really you can make almost anything with panels. Our largest size, let's say a wall panel is going to be, something like 9-ish feet high, by 35, 40 feet long. Really, that's the full size of any wall that you would put in a house. And, roof panels, floor panels, kind of same thing. But they can be down to, less than a foot long.
Hmm.
So that means that any intricate design that is desired for that builder's market, we can execute. So once we said yes, we can build your project or we can panelize your project, then we're looking at what are the ways that we can ensure the right level of quality, the right price, the right performance that the builder is looking for. And that's really where the heavy engineering comes in. That engineering includes building science, which is really looking at how to maximize performance and resiliency with with keeping costs as low as they can be. It includes some value engineering. So we will make suggestions. They're not, requirements, but suggestions on if you tweak this, you can save a decent amount of money on the project. We'll check for code compliance as well. And then we're fully structural engineering the home. So actually, every panelized project that we build, we have a local state licensed engineer that has sealed that project, and it's just a great kind of feather in the cap of the builder to be able to tell the building inspector, I have an engineer's stamp on this, and that usually makes things go a little bit quicker and easier for them.
And when we're talking about performance, are there different levels of performance that you can guarantee? Some builders are looking to build net zero, some builders aren't.
Mhm.
There are different levels of Energy Star certification. Is there a way that you can land a HERS score at a specific point, or is it, standard performance across the board?
Yeah, so one of our first questions, and I mentioned that the builder comes to us with a set of plans, and we go back to them with basically a questionnaire checklist.
Mm.
It takes 5 minutes, and most of the questions are, "What are you looking to achieve in this project? What energy performance are you looking to achieve? You just want to hit code? Great. It'll probably be better than code, but we're not going to do anything that will increase cost to do that. It's just out of the box is going to be a lot more tightly built home, even if it's code compliant from an R value perspective or a Windows perspective. Um, so some builders, that's exactly what they need for their market. Um, Other builders want to go to much higher levels of performance, and yes, we can go all the way up to net zero homes. That does require putting solar or some kind of renewable energy on the project, and we can help them out with that. We have a solar business here at CertainTeed, so
Mhm.
we can help in that way. Um, or something that's becoming increasingly common is zero energy ready homes. Zero energy ready is where the house does not yet have solar or some other renewable, but if there was solar put on the home, then it would produce as much or more energy than it consumes.
What does the execution piece look like after the builders have worked with you to design the structure of the home and now it's time to start manufacturing? Can you kind of take us through the process from factory to, handing the keys over, or I guess um, MEPs would be the step before that?
Yeah, exactly. Um, So we're of course doing the manufacturing. We have four locations in the eastern United States where we do manufacture all of the panels. It's almost always that if your project is in the Carolinas, it's going to be built in our South Carolina facility as an example. So it's as local to the job site as it can be. Um, that has real transportation cost advantages. Obviously, the transportation costs, all the engineering, everything that I'm mentioning throughout this is included in the price, and we're upfront about that. But we want to obviously keep it as low as possible for the builder. Uh, the panels are manufactured. It takes about a week, sometimes less, but we usually schedule a week's worth of time to manufacture the panels for call it a roughly 2,000 square foot home. It's built essentially one house at a time, unless there's a strong desire on the builder side to have multiple houses going up concurrently on, let's say, a community that they're building, in which case we might um, ship out panels that are for 5 houses or 6 houses at once, start raising those and are manufacturing the panels as they are needed on the job site. We can do that because the transportation from the factory to the job site is always a day or less. Um, we're handling all the transportation, the logistics. We'll keep the builder informed of what's going on. Obviously, we're coordinating that with the timeline of the foundation. Typically, what we find is that we're in advance, so we're having to move production days a little bit later because the foundation might not be in yet. Um, but as soon as the foundation is in, ready to be, ready to have load placed on it, we're shipping the panels. It's usually arriving one truck at a time so that we don't have a whole bunch of trucks lined up on the, in front of the house. Those panels they're boat wrapped essentially. It's actually the exact same material that you'd use to winterize your boat. Um, the panels are taken from the truck, usually with a lull, maybe with a crane, and put onto the job site. That's called staging the panels. The bundles are unwrapped. The first panel that's needed is on the top of the pile. It's labeled. Then the last panel that's needed is on the bottom. So it's a very quick process of the crane, which we have coordinated, and it's all that's all part of our scope. The crane is picking each panel, putting it putting it on its respective location, and then our crew is going in and structurally securing those panels, in compliance with the structural engineer's requirements. Uh, all of the erection, or what's called the raising of the house, that is done by us, by our trained crews. Um, and at the end of usually a week for a single house, we're able to basically hand it over to the builder. The blower door test has been done, and we're able to say, great, you have a fully dried in, um, insulated building envelope that now essentially almost all of the work from there is done from the inside of the now insulated dried in home. So it gets rid of all the challenges related to weather delays, and usually the work that happens on the interior of the building can go a lot faster than the exterior work because of all the unknowns related to weather and coordination.
So are there efficiencies gained by the contractors themselves? Oh, when with this, because the builders are obviously looking to realize their own efficiencies, but any production builder is going to see their subs as an extension of them.
Hmm.
And if their subs are protracted, then
Hmm.
the builders are protracted. So maybe could you speak a little bit to, um, if there are any efficiencies for HVAC contractor or a plumbing contractor with these pre-drilled holes and that are done. It seems like this is done in the factory.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe I'll first share what I experienced when I was a builder, and what our customers are seeing in the traditional way of building a home. So, the framing is going up, maybe the sheathing, maybe the weather barrier, and then at that point, they're starting to look at running the MEPs. Um, and they're finding that there's a lot of what we call clashes or collisions. So it needs to be a pipe here, but there's a post there, or you need to be able to get this duct from here to there, but you can't because an LVL is in the way, and you're not allowed to drill through the LVL or to punch through the LVL. And so while those subs can typically be very quick, things are getting in the way of them doing their job. And so they're needing to go back to the framing sub, or ultimately to the builder, who goes to the framing sub and says, I need to move this, or I need to drill a hole here, or put a notch here. Is that okay? In some cases, those subs are needing to go to a structural engineer and say, I know you're technically not allowed to do this, but can we get away with doing this? And putting a notch where it's not supposed to be to make it work for the MEPs. That back and forth takes a lot of time. And of course, it's money too that needs to be paid out to all of these different trades and consultants to ensure that you can do what needs to be done. And then the insulation comes in. It's working around the wiring. Sometimes the insulation in certain markets is done first and the wiring comes next. And that electrician or plumber that's running the PEX is pulling out insulation. Hopefully they're putting it back in, maybe not. Any air sealing that's been previously done now has holes in it all over the place because the plumber needed to run a hole to put a hose, to put a hose bib on the outside. And so if someone forgets to go back and seal that, especially if you're in a market that requires a blower door test, you're going to fail the blower door test. And then you have to go around figuring out where those air leakages are happening. In our case, any penetration that happens within the building envelope, we've pre-put that in that factory, and it's already sealed. So you basically have, the right size penetration to the outside for the hose bib or for the vent that's already sealed, and all they need to do is run that pipe or that the copper through that.
So kind of zooming out from OPA and looking at the industry more broadly of offsite factory built components, what are some pressing issues that offsite can promise to solve?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's not a secret that the efficiency and productivity of home building has not gotten much better in a while. And what we're seeing right now is I think almost an inflection point around the labor challenge. And really that's driven by a few different things. One is driven by the aging out of the most skilled and a large percent of the construction workforce that within the next 5 years, I've seen estimates up to 30% will have retired, and we're not seeing anywhere near that amount of people coming into the industry to backfill. So we're losing a lot of the labor force, and we're losing the most skilled, experienced people within that.
If somebody wants to get in touch with OPA and learn more, how would they go about doing that?
So the best way is to go onto our website, CertainTeed.com/OPA. And there's a form to fill out very quick, just your contact information. There's also all the phone numbers if you want to get in touch with us that way. We'll put you in touch with a customer service consultant that can understand what you're looking for. Maybe you just want information, or maybe you want to talk about a project that you're getting ready to build.